Welcome to episode 3 of Building Christophsis. If you missed out on the previous episodes, you can check them out in the description below. For this week, we're going to start out by taking a look at a bunch of minifigures that I just had come in the mail. There's some really cool stuff here, so let's dive into it. So to start with, I've got 17 B2 Battle Droids, and I've got about 22 of these guys in my collection already. So that means we got the total up to 39 of these guys now, which I think should be enough for this mock. Some of these guys have a blaster for an arm and the other ones have regular arms. Next up, we have a few clones from Clone Army Customs, and I picked these guys up for a couple of different reasons. One of them is that with the Captain Rex and Commander Cody figures, I'm going to be displaying this mock at Brickworld Chicago, and I don't want somebody to come through and swipe my official figures because they're a little bit more expensive than these guys. Overall, I think these guys look really good. I'm going to be taking the jetpack off of Cody because he doesn't have that in the scene, but it was an add-on that I wanted for future use. And then I added a jetpack onto Captain Rex. Unfortunately, I had an issue with the Rex figure where when I tried to add in the antenna into the helmet hole, it was flopping over back in front. I think that's just because the holes on this helmet might be a little bit too big. So I put in a request for a helmet replacement, and hopefully they'll get that sent over to me soon. I'll let you guys know what happens with that. And then last but not least, you can see in this shot that Captain Rex has a couple of 501st clones with him that are actually the Phase 1 versions. And so LEGO doesn't make any of these guys. They just make the Phase 2 501st clones, but I think these dudes look great. And they come with these jetpacks. Unfortunately, they didn't have the printed jetpacks available. They have some that match that scene exactly, which would have been super cool to get, but unfortunately, they were out of stock. But I think these guys are looking really good with the 360 printing, and I'm very happy with them. So I had to pick up 4 of those guys so that in the battle, we can have them fighting against that Octoparo droid with Captain Rex. That's it for the minifigures for this episode, so let's go ahead and get into some building. The first thing that I wanted to do was to go ahead and get the bridge finished off. So I had my friend Alec come over, and he helped me out with building some more of those hexagons to go along the sides. It didn't take us too long to get that all wrapped up, and then we capped off the top nicely with a couple of plates and tiles to make everything nice and straight. Next, I moved on to cleaning up my work area. Parts had gotten all over the place throughout this building process, so I wanted to tidy things up a little bit. After getting everything tidied up, I took some of the 1x8 black tiles that I had gotten in the mail recently, and I started working on laying out the entire border. I got that whole thing tiled off pretty quickly, and then it was time to move on to working on the buildings some more. I wanted to figure out how I was going to attach them to the base plate, and since I had built up this ridge on the side of the bridge, I needed to build up the base of the building by 2 bricks to get it to a regular height. Then I started putting plates on the front and back area of where the building was going to sit, and then I worked on tiling off the underside of the building with this blue color because the hexagons don't really line up with the studs. It has to sit on top of tiles instead of actually being connected down to the base plate. So the only place that it can be actually connected down is on the front and back side of the building. After getting that figured out, I wanted to work on building a couple more sections so I could get the buildings a little bit taller. The design that I came up with here might be a little bit overcomplicated, but I think the end result is worth the work. I started building more walled sections, and before long I had this design memorized. Alec also helped me build a couple of these, which was super helpful. I stacked a floor on top of the building in the middle of the mock to give it a little bit more structural rigidity so I could move it around some. Now it was time to figure out my door design for the buildings. I wanted to keep it somewhat simple because I was hoping that I could just pull parts from my collection to make this, and that I wouldn't have to order anything. I figured out a design that I liked, and I went ahead and attached it to the bottom of the building. I added another floor on top of that, and it felt like the design was really starting to come together. Let's take a look at where we're at and figure out what to work on next. All right, so a quick progress update here. I have managed to build on to the skyscraper in the middle. Here's some more. I got my door design figured out, and I built the doors for the other 2 skyscrapers just to get those into position. And so next I need to work on figuring out how I'm going to make some sort of an entrance here. And so I've left the bottom open underneath this so that I can build something out where pedestrians would come into the building. And then I've also kind of started working on a roof design, just sort of building this out in a scratch type of way with putting these angled plates on the side here to make sure I'm getting the angles right. And I placed a couple of orders. I also got a Pick a Brick online order that came in with a couple of Bricklink orders, and I've just sort of thrown everything into this box here, but it's some really good stuff that's come in the mail. I've got some bricks and some tiles and a whole bunch of other things to help me build out those landing areas. So I'm gonna get all that out real quick and show you guys what I got. All right, so it unfortunately looks like one of those bags broke open in here, and so I've got tiles all over the place here that I need to clean up, but some good stuff that came in. We got 1x4 bricks, some 2x2 and 2x4 tiles, along with some trans clear pieces. I've also got some 16x16 plates, more tiles, more bricks, some window pieces, as well as some 2x8s, some 8x16 plates, some more tiles, and then some 16x16 plates. And these larger plates I'll be using to build the roofs on the buildings. One thing I was thinking about is I want to add lighting inside these buildings. So I was trying to figure out the best way to do that. And I think what it's going to be is to actually build a battery box into the roof and disguise it as some sort of an HVAC unit or something like that. And then I can put some LED strips underneath the roof to shine down through the building. And then what I'll probably end up doing is just tiling off the underside of the building with some black tiles to kind of mask over that gray base plate. I think that design will work pretty well because I was thinking about it. If you're looking at the mock here, you can actually see through the windows to see the floor. So putting some lighting on the floor facing upwards didn't seem like a really good option to me. So now that I've got all these parts in, it's time to keep plugging away, making these buildings a little bit taller and getting those landing pads built. I built out a couple of simple landings in front of each of the buildings using bricks and tiles. I also worked on getting the other two skyscrapers placed with their tiling and plates so they could get locked down to the base plates. I had enough black tile in my collection to get the floors of one of the buildings finished off, but I'll have to wait until the next episode to get the other ones done. The next thing I wanted to work on was getting some parts ordered for the gunship I wanted to build. I purchased instructions for M5 Build's custom gunship. I figured to try and save a little bit of money, I would try and pull what parts I could out of my own collection. So I picked up a couple of these trays at Harbor Freight and I started sorting. After I finished sorting, I placed a couple of Bricklink orders so I could get the remaining parts. Jumping to a few days later, this is where we're at with things. Total, I was able to pull about $50 worth of parts from my collection, so I only needed to spend about $90 on parts to get the rest of the pieces that I need for this gunship. I'm still waiting on one more small package with a couple of missing parts for this, but I'm going to go ahead and get all these packages opened up and then sort all the pieces into these organizers. All right, so here's a look at where we're sitting at the end of episode 3, which I think is a pretty good point. I'm feeling happy with how the bridge is looking, and I'm really excited to start getting into ripping some of this up and adding details in. But I'm holding off on that for now because I've realized as I'm working on these portions of the buildings and the back side of the build, it's actually kind of hard already to reach over all of this. And so I don't want to start adding detail in the front here until I've got the back section relatively completed so that I don't have to knock things over as I'm trying to access it. But as far as next steps go, we're at a point with these buildings where we can start to finally add detail in, which I'm really excited about. This is the point that I've been waiting to get to. So I'm going to be adding a bridge between these two buildings right here. I think it's going to be on either the 4th or the 5th floor. There's a design. I'll throw the picture up on screen right now so you can kind of see how it looks. And I think it's a really cool structure, and I've figured out how I can build it using slopes. So I've got all of those parts coming in to build a bridge here, and that's going to be a bridge that's fully intact. And then between these two buildings here, I'm going to have a bridge that's been blown up. So I'll have maybe half of it coming out of the side of the building here and maybe a hole in this building or something like that. I also want to build a really big explosion on the side of this building. I've got all the parts ordered for that stuff. I spent a lot of time over the last week or so here just ordering parts to get everything that I need to start making some more progress here. I've also been ordering a ton of parts for custom vehicles. So I'm going to have some Brick Vault AV7 cannons over here. And then there's going to be Brick Vault armored assault tanks over here. I also got the Brick Vault model of the ATRTs. So we're going to have those guys running through here somewhere. So all the parts are ordered and most of them have started arriving already actually. So for the next episode, we're going to see some really cool progress being made with all of those being built up, adding details into the buildings, explosions. Tiling a bunch of this stuff off too is going to have to happen soon. Obviously I got the black tiled off on the inside here and I still need to tile off the inside there and there, but I'm waiting for a Lego bricks and pieces order to come in with a bunch of black tiles so I can get that situated. At this point though, foundationally, I think we're sitting in a really good place and we've got a lot of the basics here. Obviously, I still have a lot more work to do with trying to build these skyscrapers up to be 10 stories high. It's going to be pretty time consuming, but I'm trying to build the detail into those as I go because taking these apart is pretty much impossible. It's actually just a bunch of plates that are stuck together here. So trying to rip this apart and add detail in later is going to be a problem. So I'm trying to get that situated ahead of time. Overall, I think we're in a really good spot now, and I'm very excited for the next episode for you guys to see a lot more fun stuff come together. Drop a like down below if you enjoyed and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all the progress that we're going to see in this next episode. Check out one of these other videos on screen now if you want to see more of my mocks. Otherwise, thanks for watching and I hope you have a good one.